We are now in day 3 of witness testimony in the murder trial of Danielle Redlick. Her teenage daughter Jadyn is on the stand right now. Court TV is not permitted to show her testimony. She was a minor at the time that this happened, but we will update you, of course, with some of what she is saying from the stand. In the meantime, Court TV legal correspondent Joylyn Nakron takes a closer look at self-defense in the case of Danielle Redlick.
This 48-year-old mother, now an accused murderer. Prosecutors say Danielle Redlick killed her husband in cold blood.
Miss Redlick armed herself with a knife. She used that knife to cause multiple injuries to Mr. Redlick's body. One of those injuries was that stab to the shoulder, which enters, travels, hits these major veins, and punctures his lung, causing him to bleed to death on the floor.
Defense attorneys admit Danielle stabbed Michael Redlick, but they claim she acted in self-defense.
On the night of January 11th, 2019, someone was very, very angry. This someone started to physically attack their spouse. They had rage. They were choking their spouse, smothering their spouse. That someone was Michael Redlick. And Danielle Redlick had no choice but to defend herself because she was afraid she was going to die. And so she did.
The argument of self-defense must be rooted in proportionality, explains Florida-based criminal defense attorney J.A. Baer.
You can't just pull a gun out and shoot somebody because they slapped you in the face. The force has to be met with deadly force.
You will hear about her emotions on seeing this and that she reacted in confusion because she had only stabbed him one time in the shoulder.
In this case, self-defense is an argument based in a larger claim of spousal abuse.
We'll also see, more likely than not, a witness that can talk about battered spouse and the toll that we see. It is not something that occurs overnight. It's a grooming situation. It's a process where abuse continues and continues. So they will mount that charge.
Michael is pretty violent with Danielle on several occasions. You will hear about one particular incident where Michael punched her in the face, bruised her face, and chipped her tooth.
Police had been called to the couple's home on at least 2 occasions because of their fights, a history particularly significant in the context of this murder trial.
You have to look at what does the track record look like for both parties. And is there a history of police reports? Is there a history of calls for domestic violence? And I'm certain there'll be a doctor or psychologist or psychiatrist who will come in and testify.
In 2020, Redlick was offered a plea deal, plead guilty to manslaughter and serve prison time for at least 10 years. But it was a deal she ultimately rejected.
It is a big risk.
A conviction at trial on the more serious charge of second-degree murder will most certainly mean a harsher punishment.
This is uniquely and unequivocally her decision to go to trial. There may be a point in time, and I've certainly gone through this in personal experiences with trials in the past that I've handled, where the client looks back and said, I should have considered something like a manslaughter plea to a term of years versus the real possibility of a potential life sentence.
Redlick's defense team faces a formidable challenge against evidence that will be hard to refute, according to A. Baer.
On one hand, she's going to claim these self-defense battered issues. On the other hand, she's going to be met with a vigorous amount of evidence that shows that she's not telling the truth. There's a lot of things that she can't explain that are circumstantial in nature, but when you start to build that mountain, it becomes a very difficult burden for the defense to overcome.
And we have breaking news. We have some of the testimony to share with you. Again, Jadyn Redlick. This is the daughter of the defendant in this case, Danielle, and the deceased, their father, Michael. The prosecutor says, what was the relationship like between your parents? Jadyn, who's now 18, was 15 at the time, says very toxic, tumultuous, very rocky. Yeah, it was not a good relationship, very rocky. The prosecutor says, who was the primary source? Jadyn, my mother. Of course, the next natural question, prosecutor, why do you say that? Jadyn says if there was an issue between them, it would be brought up by my mother. Let me bring back in my guests, Jack and Franz. All right, I told you, we've been texting in between because there's a lot of compelling information in this case, and part of that is just a small bit of what some of the testimony is that Jadyn's testifying to. Franz, let me ask you first, what do you think, how strong is that for the prosecution?
Well, I think we now know why the prosecutor put her on the stand. If her mother is the instigator, if she's what we call in the law the aggressor, does that mitigate this argument about battered woman syndrome? It certainly doesn't align, right? Like, which way is it? Is it that he's abusive and he's emotionally controlling and abusive and he's an alcoholic? Or is she really the catalyst for the fights that would happen in this rocky, tumultuous relationship? That's huge. That's huge for the prosecutors. And again, we now know why she's on the stand.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And we get a little bit more of the testimony we'll be sharing with you as we get to it. But the other thing, Jack, I have to mention, and this is what I predicted, sure enough, when Jadyn came into the courtroom, Danielle, her mother, dabbed her eyes with a tissue, probably the most emotion we've really seen from the mother to the defendant in this case at this time. How do you, Jack, question on cross-examination a young child, 15 at the time, 18 now? How do you do that without beating her up in front of the jury?
Well, you have to be careful, and obviously that's obvious. But at the same time, I don't think you change what you're trying to do here, especially when you get statements like this. In the end, you don't know if this witness is going to be yours or not. But if you take a look at what she's already said, this daughter has already said that your client, her mother, is the aggressor in this case, which undercuts directly a self-defense claim if you're arguing battered wife. And so as a result, you need to be very clear. Single sentence, declarative statements, one subject at a time, walk her down that path, talk about what that means, because there are some things about this that are real. I would talk about and stretch out why she's pouring alcohol down that sink, the number of times she's seen her father abusive, the fact that this was toxic and it's not just one way, the idea of all of the things that were not good, that were rocky. Talk about her father's involvement, her father's participation. You have to be able to shift this back, rock this back into his corner, not just in hers, because if you can't do that, a jury will simply say, another piece of the puzzle, another brick in the wall, and guess who gets to sit in that cell once it's built.
And I wonder if the defense is going to try to say that this daughter was too biased, because the other piece of testimony I can now share with you is she was asked by the prosecutor what her relationship was like with her father, and her response was, me and my dad were very close. All right, I'm going to leave it here. We need to take a break. Of course, we'll continue to bring you testimony from the daughter, Jadyn, but also we are going to bring you some of the biggest stories across the nation, including Amber Heard back in the news. Stay with us.